Today it's time for a longer macro game of Terran versus Protoss, where we find ourselves on Waterfall. This particular map was the winner of the most recent Team Liquid map contest. I haven't actually casted a game on it just yet, so we're gonna find out together exactly what this map is all about. First off, in the top right-hand corner, playing right here with the blue Terran SCVs from South Korea, we have ByuN. And his opponent in the opposite corner with the red Protoss pieces, we are looking at herO's main Nexus. Alrighty, so herO versus ByuN. Both of these guys are looking very strong right now. herO, definitely my favorite Protoss player in the world. I mean, this guy's been playing some fantastic StarCraft over the last couple of months, and honestly, he may very well be my favorite StarCraft 2 player in the world right now, although, you know, that title flips quite frequently. Either way, ByuN, of course, Micro Jackson himself. Some of the very best micro that you can have in StarCraft 2, period. This man, a previous world champion, a probe killer as well. Okay. That mostly just hurts herO mentally. Kind of sucks to lose the scouting worker. Not the end of the world, but you can definitely beat yourself up over it. Anyhow, today we find ourselves on a map called Waterfall. Now, I think that this game is gonna get underway pretty quickly, judging by the fact that there's a Zealot right now coming up too. So let's have a quick little look around. Standard main base right over here. Obviously, the map is mirrored, right? Like every single StarCraft 2 map in the current map pool is. So we have a standard main base. There's a little bit of a jump-up pad right over there in the back. There's a standard ramp that leads down towards the low ground. Some unbuildable plates right there at the bottom of the ramp to prevent cannon rushes, bunker rushes, and all the rest of it. Standardly sized natural right over here. And then, once again, a very commonly sized ramp right over here. You can wall that off with 3 3x3 structures. And everything so far, at the very least, is very normal. Now, at that point, the map becomes a little bit more interesting because these bases right over here, the third and the fourth, they feel kind of far away, especially for Terrans and Protoss. I can imagine it can be quite tricky to actually acquire those. And after that, it's not like you have like another base right over here in the center that you can go ahead and take. You're gonna have to expand even further out into the map. So I would say the first two bases, very normal, very easy to acquire. Third and fourth, already a little bit trickier, especially with like the distance in between those two. I mean, it's not really too crazy, but after that, yeah, you definitely do have to venture further and further out into the map. Anyways, a Reaper right now inside of the main base. Trying to be annoying. Not really getting a whole lot of worker kills. Marauder already came up as well for ByuN. Concussive Shells is about 80% of the way done, so for the time being, I think herO is going to be able to continue the harassment. SCV just barely does not finish up the command center. Just a little bit of hurt. Once more, not the end of the world, but nice little slowdown here. ByuN actually going for multiple Marauders here on a very fast concussive shell. I wonder if that's mostly just as a defensive measure, because obviously it will help you, yeah, catch those early game harassment tools right here from the Protoss player, who's now transitioning to watch the Twilight Council. Marauders are gonna stay at home, unsurprisingly. Bunker will be coming up instead, so nothing all too crazy. That means we have a little bit of time to talk further about the map. So the map is called Waterfall. The main reason for that is that there's, well, a waterfall in the bottom right as well as in the top left. There's this nice river that actually flows through the center of the map all the way towards that opposite corner, and I kind of like it. Most of the time, StarCraft maps are relatively rigid, right? We have more, I don't know, canals than we have rivers. And I kind of like the crossings too. So we have this like glass bridge right over here in the top left, as well as in the bottom right. And then there's some, I guess some shallow water right over here covered by rocks, where you can obviously still go across as well. There's 3 locations right over here. It looks very pretty, looks very organic. I also really like the feature of the fact that it's, you know, 2 Protoss factions. We have like an Ire type of faction right over here at the bottom section, right, with the yellow colors, and then the top section of the map is still very Protoss-y, but this is obviously the white with gold right over there. Anyhow, this map, I believe I mentioned it earlier already, but it won the Team Liquid map contest, which is pretty sick. Yeah. It's made by herO. herO made what I think is probably the best overall Legacy of the Void map that we've had in StarCraft 2, and that is Golden Wall. I think Golden Wall has been consistently bringing us some of the very best games, although obviously a lot of that is personal preference. I do like the fact that there's actually some guards over here, so, you know, the Protoss children won't fall into the water on accident. Do Protosses even have children? I don't know how this works. Anyhow, herO also made maps like Cloud Kingdom, Eternal Empire. He's a very experienced map maker, so I don't think we should really be too surprised by the fact that this seems to be a very solid map as well, albeit one where you can expand, yeah, not as easily as on some of the others. Now, obviously, with the new map pool, we've had a bunch of maps added as well that are, well, relatively easy to expand on. Like, for example, the pocket bases, right, on Stargazers, where you can take a third base, a fourth base, and even a fifth base relatively easily. So there's a little bit of contrast there. Anyways, a blink at this point is done. Let's see how much damage herO can do with this push. Marauders here are still going to be quite helpful, slowing down whatever they can, but SCVs will be pulled off the line as well to try and just soak up a few of those hits. Sniping that prism would be absolutely amazing, so that's definitely what ByuN is on the hunt for right now. Stimpack, combat shields, +1 infantry weapons are all coming up, so there's definitely a timer right here on this push from herO. Does he have enough to break the Terran player right here, right now? Doesn't look like it. Did kill quite a few of those SCVs, though, which is definitely nice. Third Nexus on the back of this too. We see the Robo Bay as a follow-up too on that production tab. And the +1 infantry weapons will be denied, which is actually quite annoying. Observer over here for herO does scout that the rest of that Terran army was chasing quite far, but yeah, now it's Stimpack done. I think that this should be cleaned up relatively easily. Alright. Now herO, of course, wouldn't be herO if he wasn't constantly being aggressive. One of the reasons why I enjoy watching herO so much is because the man is just constantly fighting. Doesn't really slow down. He's got both Blink as well as a Prism. Now, the Prism is a unit that gives basically every unit Blink. But if you give blinking units Blink with the Prism, I don't know, you have like some Blinkception going on. And technically the sky is the limit when it comes to this sort of, you know, unit control. Anyways, he needs to be very cautious though. Sniping the +1 infantry weapons was very, very nice. But the Terran army is certainly going to be able to face off against the Protoss army in a straight-up one-on-one fight. The DPS here, even without the +1 infantry weapons, is still very, very high. Okay, nice little bit of micro here as well from ByuN, picking up the weakened units, dropping them in the back of the fight once more. Siege tanks, though, are now coming up too. But already, the next step here for the Protoss is going to be the Disruptor, right? So the Disruptor is going to be pretty sweet. Rather than going Colossi, which is kind of interesting, he decides to go straight into the Disruptors. This almost looks like a Protoss versus Protoss type of mid-game unit composition, where you go Stalkers and Disruptors. Yeah, so herO's just going for whatever he deems to be, or whatever he thinks is like the most micro-heavy comp that you can go for. Now, obviously, ByuN, very good when it comes to that unit control. A little bit ago, I casted a game between ByuN and Creator on, what map was that? It's the map with the golden base. Anyways, a couple of medevacts right now have split themselves off from the main pack too. That was a, yeah, that was a bit of a banger. Like, there were, I don't know, dozens of Disruptors in that particular game, and for some reason, ByuN ended up dodging all of those shots very, very nicely. Now this medevac drop in the main base came in uncontested and unscouted, so that means that a recall will be forced. A couple of Zealots will be warped in, but Blink actually didn't finish. Yeah, so while his army will be pushed back, sniping the Twilight Council there is very, very nice. Dark Shrine was already building, and obviously, even though that requires a Twilight Council to be there, did you realize, by the way, that he didn't finish charge? I don't know if herO realized it. He must notice when he sees the speed at which those Zealots are walking that they do not have their leg enhancements, right? Anyhow, he really needs to start up a new one. Dark Shrine, though, can still be used, even if there's no Twilight Council available, assuming that this Dark Shrine itself actually exists and that you have some gateway charges available as well. Fourth Nexus coming up. Not as quickly as maybe herO does in Protoss versus Zerg. I mean, there was that one game where herO ended up taking his at... Like, he took his 6th base at the 9-minute mark against the Zerg player, which is just ridiculous. That was a game against Rogue. In case you're interested, I'll go ahead and post the ByuN game versus Creator down below in the description of this video, as well as the herO versus Rogue match. Those games were absolute bangers. Highly recommend you go ahead and, well, check them both out after this one. If you have nothing better to do. At the very least, I can fill your evening, I suppose. Alright. Dark Templar going into the Natural Expo. ByuN did, of course, see the Dark Shrine. Missile turret here a little bit later than you ideally wanted to. Sniping right there, the SCV that was building it as well, but it's going to finish up eventually. Shadow Stride immediately comes up as well. So the Shadow Stride ability allows those Dark Templar to blink around, which has become very popular, especially when it comes to sniping Terran command centers, right? So generally speaking, what Terran players like to do is put a, well, probably a 4th command center right over here, or maybe right over here. They morph that into a planetary fortress, and even though the planetary can technically deal with Dark Templar quite well, planetaries can't fly, right? So orbital commands, they have a lift-up ability. Command centers themselves also have the lift-off ability, but yeah, planetaries cannot fly. That would be something. Imagine you could fly a planetary fortress from like right over here into the main base of the opponent. Surprise. I think the lore accurate reason though as to why that is because it's too heavy. Since you build those cannons on top of it, apparently, I don't know. The command center thrusters will just not be capable of carrying all of that weight. But it makes a lot of sense. But the Dark Templar, generally we've seen them being warped in big groups. Just snipe the command center and the planetary fortress on top of it, and then, you know, Protoss will usually be able to get on out of there again as well with that Shadow Stride ability. Look how far apart these bases are though, right? Yeah, it's going to be tricky to be in the right place at the right time. Wouldn't be surprised if because of that it's going to be a relatively Zerg-favored map. Just because Zerg obviously has creep connecting everything, and Zerg units in general are very, very quick. There's, by the way, chart once again coming up. ByuN, in the meantime, has already made the transition towards the advanced shockwaves research here. That's going to make his ghosts a little bit more powerful. Ghosts have an ability called EMP. Yeah, there it is. Removing the shields as well as the energy out of those Terran, or out of those Protoss units. And great zoning right here with the siege tanks in the back. That Nexus is toast. He's not done just yet, though. He's got to be so careful. Pushing up a ramp when there's Colossus and all kinds of splash damage here. Force field also available. Well, ByuN is going to try and go for it. This seems a bit risky. Okay, I was going to say, I think he's just going to camp out there. This is something that herO sees as well, but what he doesn't see is his medevac drop going into the main base once more. This seems like the obvious choice if you can get your siege tanks in a good spot. You can force the Protoss to be relatively defensive. The Colossus, though, they have cliff walking, so they can move straight up that high ground. Okay, they're going to be able to shoot their lasers as well relatively easily. Siege tanks have moved a little bit closer too. Disruptors pretty far in the back, and this is where ByuN can start showing off his micro skills once again. He wants to try and see if he can potentially kill this 4th Nexus here off the Protoss player. One of the siege tanks is in range, but now the majority of the Protoss army is over here as well. Purification Novas, okay, the Knight for the time being. A couple of Dark Templar blink in the back of that Terran army, and it looks like maybe that was an overextension at the same time, though. The reason why that was an overextension is because ByuN just loaded up a bunch of medevacs full of units once again. He's going to be able to snipe those upgrades. So even though he didn't snipe the Nexus itself, well, now he's going to go after some of the Stalkers too. This is going fantastic right here for the Terran player. All right. Sniping those double upgrades is actually amazing. So upgrades, they benefit every single one of those Protoss ground units. A bit of an overextension here as well. The counterattack, herO decided to move across while leaving those Colossi unprotected. Well, the last one will definitely live, but maybe a little bit too much right there from ByuN. But sniping 2 of those Colossi, very, very nice. All right, as far as upgrades go right now, we are at 1-1 for the Terran player and 1-1 as well for the Protoss. Little bit disappointed right there in the timing of that armory. This happens for every single Terran player apparently between ByuN's level and Bronze League, which is a bit of a shame. In order to go into +2/+2 upgrades, Terrans need to have that armory. It's the worst feeling when you get in there and you just realize you can't. Okay, Planetary isn't done yet. He doesn't want to give the Terran player a chance to cancel the Planetary and then still lift off, so it's a little bit funny. Alright, there we go. Well, it's not done yet, man. Yeah, no, this is exactly what you were trying to avoid. Good reaction speed right there from ByuN. A little bit greedy there from herO. herO, though, unfazed by the whole situation, decides to once more plant down that base. Planetary can be the Knight once more. Yeah, sure. How many times are we gonna play this little mini game? Got a feeling those Dark Templar are happy to go in once more. Okay, now siege tanks though are in range. I think previously there was only a single one. Eventually that Planetary will finish up. I always wonder. I mean, Terran players keep taking their 4th with a Planetary Fortress, right? But I wonder if it's actually an orbital command that you should be building here. Just because there will be Dark Templar, right? If you know it's Dark Templar, for sure, makes sense that you would, you know, try and not lose the bases to that. Anyhow. Nice little move right here from herO. There goes the planetary once more. Planetary gets cancelled. And herO gets it out of there. Okay, ByuN has had enough though. Moving the majority of his force towards the other side of the map. Finishing the job that he started up a couple of minutes ago. At the same time, as soon as that was recognized, herO decides to shove forward as well with the majority of his army on the side of the Terran. Nexus is already gone, and right now I think ByuN is maybe going to go for a move out right over here, or maybe even towards the natural. Double Colossi are coming up here for herO. The majority of the Protoss army right now also making a move back. Couple of DTs here, slicing up whatever they can. The majority of the Dark Templar, though, still alive, and they're going to try and help out with the defense, too. Little bit of indecisiveness right here from herO, and it will probably cost him dearly, as ByuN is just dealing damage left, right, and center. There's another Purification Nova. Nice hit right there, though, from our Protoss player from South Korea. And I think ByuN, yeah, he was thinking about dropping the units down over there, but I think ByuN is going to try and make his way back home. Don't know where that orbital was going. Don't know where this SCV is going either, but at the very least, ByuN still has... well, he's got this command center right up here. Honestly, this would have been a significantly better exchange right here for herO if he actually would have killed that planetary. Right? So every single time we see those Dark Templar moving in, sure, they, like, hurt the planetary, and sure, they slow down the Terran, but... okay, he wants to try and see if he can snipe the orbital command right here, but I think the Terran army at this point is a little bit too big. Not gonna happen. Can we bowl a couple of those disruptors backwards? Yeah, we're gonna try. Dark Templar once again, canceling the planetary fortress morph. But you know what? Every single time they move in, they do also kill a couple SCVs. So in total, we're already at nearly 100 workers killed within 16 minutes. Protoss has finished up 2-2. Terran's just finished up 2-2 as well. It's going to even those odds a little bit. Neither player really wealthy enough, though, to just go ahead and spend their money on adding on the 3-3 research as well. There they go once more. This is so silly. This is like a yo-yo right now, right? All right, ByuN is just going to give up on it entirely. Yeah, so the bases are really quite far apart. It's hard to defend multiple locations at once. Matter of fact, drop over here in the bottom right. Once more attempted right there from ByuN. Okay, Dark Templar here. Almost caught. Scan is going to reveal them once more. He's going to try and go for a few EMPs here as well to try and reveal those Dark Templar. They'll be morphing into Archons instead. No Dark Archons in StarCraft 2. But I think there's plenty of confusion on ByuN's end so far as that command center, orbital, and planetary goes. Wow. One random SCV goes into the natural of the... I don't know how that one made it all the way over there without dying, but I'm impressed. A big chunk of the Terran and Protoss armies, though, are split off from the rest of the pack, right? Okay. A couple Dark Templar there. A few units on the right side, too. Or a couple of Ghosts, rather. Ghosts are basically Terran Dark Templar, okay? Anyways. ByuN coming in from the side. That concave heavily in his favor. Pretty good control there as well. Dodging the majority of the damage. Ooh, big sentry warp in to try and slow down this army, I suppose. Can we, like, do some force fields down? No, we can't anymore because the EMPs just dealt so much damage. ByuN, with some hyper-aggression, sniped a couple of those sentries, too. I think the main reason for the sentries here is just the amount of money that herO had at that point. He's trying to balance out his mineral and gas a little bit. My god, these guys are aggressive. Yeah, a lot of Terrans and a lot of Protosses like to just simply sit back and make a massive army. Not ByuN, not herO. This is probably what the StarCraft 2 lore developers had in mind, right? When they thought of the Terran versus Protoss matchup. Active armies all over the map, small hit squads left, right, and center. Sadly, in a lot of games, it comes down to those big death balls, which, you know, admittedly, it's pretty fun to watch every once in a while, but I think that this is quite a bit more enjoyable, right? This is definitely setting us up for, yeah, some pretty high expectations on Waterfall. I don't think the map is too crazy, by the way, overall. Relatively standard. There's these center bases, too, that I haven't highlighted yet with a rich Vespian geysers. We almost take it for granted right now, but, like, the decorations on these maps, absolutely gorgeous. Right? It's very pretty. Considering StarCraft 2 is 12 years old. As we've been making this video, anyways. It's not a bad looking game, is it? Yeah. You can complain about many things that Blizzard does right now, but they definitely do make games that age really, really well. Even games like Diablo 2, and even like classic World of Warcraft. I don't think anyone's gonna say that those games are ugly, right? They're just different, but they age very well. Now, this is a nice catch right here from ByuN, though. Okay, grabbing at least, well, a couple of those disruptors. The problem here for ByuN is that he's mining right now off of only 4 command centers, right? Or, well, he's not even mining off of 4. He's running out of resources on some of these. He doesn't have that many SCVs in total either. He needs to be very careful that he doesn't fall behind. herO is not being as aggressive as he's been throughout this game, mostly because he's got a lot more income here than his opponent. So if you look right there at the income in the top left-hand corner, for every minute that goes by, herO is mining like 1,000 resources more. So even if he takes some very inefficient trades, which he hasn't been doing, well, so far in this match, as long as he holds on to those bases, he's gonna be okay. ByuN on the other end, trading more cost efficiently, he can obviously fly the command centers to newly, well, fresh locations too. Did he actually go for an orbital on the 4th? Oh yeah, he did it! Okay. He did go for an orbital command at the 4th base. That's funny. Never really see Terran players doing that, but I think ByuN is like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I'll just go for the orbital and call it a day. Probably want to repair it back up to full at some point, though, if you have the money for it. So where exactly is Terran gonna take their 5th, right? So this is the main issue you run into on this map. Where in the world are you gonna take the 5th? There's this massive ramp right over here. Same obviously on the other side of the map, but there's like, it almost feels like there's a base missing in this location. That's where you would most of the time find it, and a lot of these, yeah, situations. +3/+3, by the way. Apparently, ByuN smashed his piggy bank. herO has money for it, but he hasn't started it up yet. I think ByuN's goal is probably not necessarily to take a 5th base, but to make a death ball. Wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go for an all-out assault as soon as 3-3 is done. Obviously, we'll try to fly a command center over here, I'd imagine, right? Because, I mean, right now these are not doing anything. Yeah, may as well give it a try, but I don't think he's going to go too committed into the defense of those locations. I think he's probably going to try and just max out, make a really strong army, and then go in for a push. Put all of his eggs in his micro basket. Okay. A little bit of damage still being done here in the bottom right-hand corner. This is, by the way, the remnant of the army, I think, that previously was part of killing those bases. Yeah, so ByuN just hasn't been able to acquire a 5th base, right? So that's what herO does really well in his games. I've noticed that in all of his matches. He's very good at just simply acquiring, well, I say simply, but constantly expanding everywhere without actually losing his critical bases. Much easier said than done. Now he's going to add on +3/+3 as well as additional gateways. Okay. This is one disruptor hit away from being an absolute disaster for ByuN. This is still very playable for him right now, but you can kind of feel that he's up with his back against the wall. Hope the command center is not too heavy right there for that glass panel. That'd be bad if it just falls into the river. See a command center floating by? I'd be here for it, but don't think it would be ideal. Okay. This is an army that packs a punch. There's gonna be about 20 seconds where Terran will have 3-3 done and herO won't. Maybe not 20 seconds, maybe less than that. If ByuN can somehow force the engagement, though, at that exact point... Okay, that was a good hit right there. That would be fantastic for him. Still, a lot of workers here have gone down. Nearly 140 or 150... 150 workers killed, and some massive EMPs do blanket the entirety of that Protoss army. That being said, though, herO is dealing a ton of splash damage, and he's got money to reinforce this with. So that was actually a timing that herO... where herO didn't have his 3-3 done yet. Guess what? Mr. ByuN did. Those fights immediately go better for the Terran player. That being said, that timing window right now is closing. herO's got 26 zealots. Gonna add 13 more. My god. Colossus, careful, careful, Mr. Colossus. You don't want to just give away your Colossus! He's so busy looking at the rest of the fight, probably not realizing that the Colossi were coming down that really large ledge. Great slicing right there, though. Majority of the Terran army gets cut in half. Big Disruptor Purification Nova, too. Alright. herO's on the prowl. He wants to make sure that he denies that economy, knowing very well that the Terran's gonna run out of money very soon on the other bases that they still have. That being said, the army here from the Terran player is quite big. ByuN right now grabbing a supply lead as well, despite being down in economy the entire game long. You know what, I say that, at this point the economy is pretty much even. The only mining that herO really has is right over here, right? The majority of his other bases are running out. Anyways, this is apparently the moment where herO is going to blink aggressively forward. A couple of zealots have been split off from the main army too to try and work on those SCVs, but I wonder if that's the right call. The Marines, Marauders, and Ghosts underneath those medevacs are just simply picking off whatever they can, and now ByuN is getting to the point where he's nearly doubling his opponent's army supply. I did see a couple Dark Templar, okay, getting morphed in. Apparently they're going to try and wreak some havoc on the other side of the map. I think that would have been nice a little bit ago. Either way, they're moving on over in that direction. ByuN obviously doesn't know the exact spot that he's in, but he must realize that there's really not that much mining anymore available here for the Protoss. It takes about, give or take, 10 minutes until a base is out of money, if you're mining it pretty rapidly. So you can kind of keep track of that on the clock, right? If you know your opponent has been mining this base for a while, if you know that it's, you know, acquired early, it's obviously going to mine out early too. Okay. herO's smashing his piggy bank and going for a new Nexus right over here in the bottom right-hand corner. Very gruesome deaths right there for those two ghosts. I think ByuN needs to go. He probably doesn't realize it. He probably doesn't realize exactly the situation that he's in right now, but I think this is a prime opportunity for him to go. There's barely an army here for Protoss. It's 5 Stalkers, 2 Disruptors, a Sentry. Like, that's it. This is it. This is all he's got. herO, though, making a couple more bowling balls. Hoping for a strike. But is ByuN gonna give him the opportunity? This choke point over here is rather tight. Not a lot of units to, not a lot of movement here that the Terran can use to maneuver those Terran units around in as well. Okay. Shutting down all of the static defense. Another Disruptor comes from the Natural Expo, but will be denied. At the same point, there's an army in the bottom right-hand corner. It found that new Nexus and is going to be able to take care of all of those probes very rapidly together with the Nexus. In the meantime, the other Nexus has already fallen, and despite the fact that I really like the situation for herO quite a bit better throughout this game, it seems to me that Micro Jackson once again is pulling it off. Yeah, just micro like ByuN, guys. Just, you know, take notes, make a screenshot, and yeah, just do that in your next game. You see what he's doing here? Just do all of this. Just like, don't be bad. Like, the problem is, right? Okay. It's very easy to get carried away microing 3 medevacs, but then if you're, in the meantime, also banking up thousands of resources, it's really not that great. It's very easy to micro one side, or not even very easy, but it's relatively easy to micro one side of the map and then forget about your main army entirely, and by the time that you look back, you just see the Purification Nova connecting with your entire force. I think that's happened to practically every single Terran player out there that, you know, tried to play like either a ByuN or, for example, a Clem. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.